Hey, what's up guys? This is Mike from cashflowmma.com. Today I'm going to review this weekend's UFC card. And we are going to start off with the first fight of the night, Jonathan Martinez versus Zviad. Jonathan Martinez is a striker. Last time out he got knocked out by Davy Grant. And he's fighting a short notice opponent in Zviad. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. Zviad is a wrestler with really good control. If he gets you down, then it's very likely that he will keep the opponent down for the whole round. He's really good at catching kicks. And like I said, he took this fight on short notice. And it's not long ago either that he was injured. He was supposed to fight Jack Shore in September, beginning of September, but he hurt his leg and he wasn't able to take that fight. So he has been injured pretty recently, and it's hard to say exactly how in shape and prepared he's going to be. But I think it's worth taking into account. But we still have Zviad winning this fight just because his wrestling is really good, and he's most likely going to get Martinez down once or twice. He's really patient with his takedown, and his jab is improving. His boxing is not that great, but he's a decent jab, and he waits for a perfect moment to go for takedowns. And yeah, we see Zviad winning this fight, probably by decision, but it wouldn't be surprising if he gets a submission. So moving on, next fight here we have Livinha Souza versus Randa Markos. Now this fight is extremely difficult to predict. Souza obviously would like to get this fight to the ground, but it's hard to say if she's really going to be able to get Markos down. Markos doesn't really have that great takedown defense, so probably at some point she will get a takedown. In the stand-up, Souza is really terrible. She is terrible striking, and Markos is, I would say, she's slightly better. She has I don't know if I will call it a decent jab, but she's at least better striking technically than Souza. But I would say Souza has more power. Striking wise, if it were only a striking battle, Markos would probably outpoint Souza for 3 rounds. But it's not too unlikely that Souza is going to be able to take Markos down at some point and maybe submit her. In this fight we are actually leaning towards Souza winning, and yeah, she's a slight favorite also this fight. So let's move on to the next fight. We have Jeff Molina versus Daniel Lacerda. Jeff Molina has a really good output. He landed, let's see here, something like 180 significant, yeah, 189 significant strikes in his last fight out, 2 knockdowns. So he can have a really good output. and his takedown defense though is really bad. He was taken down 3 times in his last fight, and 2 times before that against Jacob Silva. So, and now he's fighting also a guy who is really going to want to take him down and submit him, and he's really good at that also. He has 6 submissions, arm bars, triangle chokes. He likes the armbar. He's only lost once, and he got injured, arm injury. In this fight, if it would stay standing, Molina would probably win this one. But we don't have any bet on this fight either. Later on, I will tell you what bets we have for this event. But let's see who is the favorite here. Molina is a favorite in this one, and he will most likely win this fight. He's going to outpoint Lacerda with his really big output that he has, but it wouldn't be surprising at all if Lacerda Daniel can get a submission in this one. So it's if you are thinking about betting on Molina, it's a dangerous bet because Daniel could absolutely get a submission here. But we have Jeff Molina here getting a decision. And up next we have Herbert versus Khama. Now Khama has a really weak shin. He's been KO'd, TKO'd 7 times and been submitted once. In his last 2 fights he's been KO'd and TKO'd. And yeah, he's like a glass cannon. He either gets KO'd or he gets the KO. He has 9 KO TKOs, and he's now fighting Herbert, who has actually got decent striking, but he's lost his last 2 fights also in the UFC against Trinaldo and Carneiro. So in this fight we have Herbert winning, and he's the favorite also here. But it wouldn't be too surprising if Khama would win this one. He is really dangerous. He's fast, and if we look here, yeah, it's actually going to have a reach disadvantage, but he has a decent output, and yeah, it's a bit difficult to say who is going to win this fight, but we are leaning towards Herbert in that one. And really, if you look at all the fights here on this weekend's card, a lot of these fights, they are really hard to predict. It's a difficult card to predict. But moving on, we have Pickett versus Laureano Staropoli, and in this fight, Pickett, like he usually does, has a reach advantage. 9-inch reach advantage, slightly taller. He hasn't been doing too great. Pickett, he's been 11-6. He has a record of 11-6, and he has lost his 2 last fights in the UFC. But of course, he has fought some pretty good guys in Tafun Numshakwi and Jordan Wright. And he's fighting Laureano Staropoli, who was pretty heavy hands, but he hasn't had an easy time either. He's lost his last 3 fights. So it wouldn't be surprising if the loser here gets cut. We'll see. In this fight, it's actually Staropoli who is the favorite, but we are actually leaning towards Jamie Pickett in this fight. He's a pretty big underdog, but we could see him getting a decision win in this one. He could keep this standing and try to pick Staropoli apart from a distance. Of course, it's hard to count on either fighter here. This really could go either way, but Pickett has a lot going for him with that huge reach advantage that he will have, and he's a really big and strong guy also. So we are leaning slightly towards Jamie Pickett in this one, but like a lot of the fights on this card, it could go either way. But yeah, Pickett. And next up we have Tabatha Ricci versus Maria Oliveira. This is actually a pretty interesting fight. Tabatha Ricci, she had a really difficult fight last time out against Fiorot. I think she was moving up in weight, took a short notice fight, and fighting someone like Fiorot short notice, it was really difficult. She's a black belt in BJJ, and she's fighting Maria Oliveira, who is, I think she's with, what are they called, PVRT, and she's a pretty tall striker, but she also can take the fight to the ground. In this fight, Maria is going to want to keep this standing, of course, and use her reach advantage and try to pick Ricci apart from a distance. But we see Ricci probably getting some takedowns and most likely winning this fight by decision. So yeah, that's how we see this playing out. And let's move on to the next one. We have Mason Jones, who is now fighting David Onama, last minute opponent. And this one is, Mason Jones is such a huge favorite in this one. 1.20. Yeah, and he's fighting this guy David Onama, who is, I would say, is really underrated in this fight. People, I think they are discrediting him because such a short notice and he has never fought in the UFC, and of course the competition he has faced is like yeah, really bad competition, of course. But we haven't really seen that much footage of him, but from what we have seen, he is actually, his stand-up is it's not bad. He checks low kicks really well, and he has a pretty good reach, and his striking is definitely pretty good, and he also has some submissions, 2 guillotine chokes and a rear naked choke. but with this level of competition it doesn't really mean that much. Um, but of course Mason Jones should definitely be the favorite, just perhaps not quite as big favorite as he is. But we have Mason Jones winning this one probably by KO TKO in maybe in the first round or second round. But although David Onama is perhaps a little bit bigger underdog than he should be. And then up next we have a really fun fight with Yong Park versus Gregory Rodrigues. Yong Park is a really good fighter actually. He has a good jab. He has a decent output, and he has very good takedowns. He lands 57% of his takedowns with 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. So it's really good takedowns, a lot of takedowns. Perhaps not so good takedown defense, but he's a very good fighter, probably underrated in a lot of people's eyes. And he's now fighting Gregory Rodrigues, who is a really strong fighter, 2-inch reach advantage, going to be quite a bit taller. He has slightly higher output, and he has never been taken down and also has very high takedown accuracy. So this is a really interesting fight. We see Gregory Rodrigues winning with this one, but his cardio, he could if depending on how Yong Park is fighting, his Gregory Rodrigues cardio could be a problem in the third round. So it's going to be very interesting to see if how this plays out. But we see Gregory Rodrigues landing the more powerful shots, and most likely is going to win perhaps the first 2 rounds, and then Yong Park may probably win the third round, where he's probably going to outwork Rodrigues. But Rodrigues, he has really heavy hands, and Yong Park is more, perhaps a little bit more technical, but he doesn't have as much power as Rodrigues has. So we see Rodrigues landing the better strikes in the first 2 rounds and outpointing Yong Park, winning a decision. So moving on, we have Nicolae versus Ike Villanueva. This one, yeah, neither one of these guys is really great fighters. Probably, let's see who the... Yeah, Nicolae is the favorite in this one. And he has a pretty big reach advantage also. Ike Villanueva, he doesn't really have much of a defense. As you can see here, he eats 7.88 strikes absorbed per minute. So that's a lot. And he's coming into this fight. He lost his last fight, while Nicolae, he won against Khama, which is a pretty impressive win. So yeah, we don't have a really big preview for this fight. It's a little bit difficult to predict how this one is going to go, but Nicolae is probably going to win this one. He should be the slightly more technical fighter. So let's move on to the next one. Francisco Trinaldo versus Dwight Grant. This is another great fight. Francisco Trinaldo is pretty amazing. He's now, is it 43 years old? Yeah, 43 years old. And he's still fighting at a really high level. Last time out, he lost against Muslim Saliko, but before that, he was on a 3-fight winning streak. And losing to Muslim Saliko is really nothing to be ashamed of. He's never been finished before by strikes. He's been submitted 3 times, lost 5 decisions. And he's fighting Dwight Grant, who has really heavy hands and a long reach. He has 7 KO TKOs out of his 11 wins. And he was actually knocked out by Rodrigues. His defense is not the best, but he won a split decision in his last fight against Stefan Sekulik. Let's see who the favorite in this one is. Yeah, Trinaldo is a slight favorite in this one. And he probably should be the favorite. He has a pretty big reach disadvantage with 6 inches. But he has a 45% takedown accuracy, which is really good. Although Dwight Grant also has a pretty decent takedown defense, it wouldn't be too surprising if Trinaldo can get this fight to the ground and slightly outpoint Trinaldo. Striking wise, it's going to be a close fight, but I feel like the takedowns is what is going to win this fight for Trinaldo. So we have Trinaldo winning this one by decision, a pretty close decision. And next up we have Alex Caceres versus Seung Choi. Now we have a parlay on this one, and we have Seung Choi winning. He's been doing really well lately. He had a really tough first fight against Evloed, but since then his last 3 he's on a 3-fight winning streak right now, and he was doing really well against Gavin Tucker also, but he did get submitted there in the 3rd round. But Gavin Tucker is of course a really good fighter also. And he's won against Joseph Salal, who is also a pretty good fighter, and in his last fight out he had really good accuracy and knocked out Julian Erosa. Now Julian Erosa is of course pretty easy to hit, but it was an impressive win and he looked really good. And he's fighting now Alex Caceres, who is 18-12. But he's on a 4-fight winning streak against, well, I would say pretty not that good fighters. Last fight out he won against Kevin Kroom, who was wrestling like crazy, trying to get a takedown. Eventually he got the takedown, but he used all his energy to get that takedown, and after that he was completely gassed, and Caceres managed to win that fight. But yeah, these guys that he has won against, they are really not that good. Before, Caceres didn't have that great takedown defense, but he has really improved his takedown defense. He's at 64% right now, but if you look at his current skills, you could probably say that he has a little bit better takedown defense, then perhaps this 64% would suggest. So this fight will probably mostly be standing. We wouldn't actually be so surprised if Alex Caceres tries to take this fight to the ground, and that's where Seung Choi has had the most trouble. And if this were to be a standing fight, there is we know if Alex weren't even going to try to take Wu Choi down, would be no doubt that Wu Choi would win this fight. And in our opinion, Alex Caceres' only chance to win this is to try to take Wu Choi down and probably get a rear naked choke. He's really fast at getting to the back, and Wu Choi has shown that he can expose his back also if he so he needs to be really careful with that Seung Wu Choi. And the improvements that he has made also, Seung Wu Choi, is, you can really tell he's really young, he's 28 years old. You can really almost tell from fight to fight that he's making pretty big improvements. But Alex Caceres has also made improvements, but perhaps not just as fast. But yeah, he's a lot better fighter now than he was before. But Seung Wu Choi should be able to keep this mostly standing, and we see him surviving on the ground if it hits the ground, and we have Seung Wu Choi winning a decision. He could get the KO, TKO, because he's really dangerous standing up, but we see it's more likely that he will win a decision. And he's one part of the parlay that we are going to have for this weekend. I will get more into the parlay in just a bit. So next time we have Jessica Rose Clark versus Joselyne Edwards. Now this fight is really not the highest quality. Jessica Rose Clark will have a 6-inch reach disadvantage. She's going to be shorter. She has a decent output at 4.68 and a good takedown defense and takedown accuracy. But yeah, and Edwards doesn't have a good takedown defense at all. And the most likely scenario here is that Jessica Rose Clark is going to go for takedowns, try to take this fight to the ground, and win by decision or submission. If this were a stand-up fight, Joselyne Edwards would probably win this one, but most likely Jessica Rose Clark is going to. I think she's actually going. I'm not 100% sure, but I think she's coached by DC actually. Let's check a little bit faster. Yeah. See, can. Yeah, she is coached by DC, and she has made a lot of improvements. She will probably win this fight. She will try to clinch and try to work for takedowns and keep this on the ground. So we have Jessica winning this one by decision. But if it were to stay standing and Edwards could keep this at a distance, she has a really good reach advantage, and Jessica's striking is not good at all. So if it were to be a striking battle, we will see Joselyne winning, but it's unlikely, and we have Jessica winning this by decision. And up next we have Grant Dawson versus Ricky Glenn. This will be a pretty fun fight, in my opinion. Grant Dawson has a really good record, 17 wins and 1 loss. In this last fight, he was losing to Leonardo Santos, but in the very end of the third round he got that knockout. So he's now fighting Ricky Glenn, who has 12 KO TKOs, and he knocked out Joaquim Silva in his last fight out. This is a pretty interesting fight, and Ricky Glenn has a 66% takedown defense. Let's see what the odds are in this one. Yeah, Dawson is a huge favorite in this one, and most likely he will be able to take down Dawson at least in the beginning of the fight. But if Ricky Glenn were to work hard, and I could see him tire Dawson out, and if he does so, it could get really interesting. But yeah, most likely Grant Dawson is going to take Ricky Glenn down and just keep him down for 3 rounds and win a decision. I don't think he's going to get a submission. It wouldn't be too surprising, but most likely Grant Dawson is going to grind out a decision win here. But 1.2, I think those odds are really wrong. Ricky Glenn could make Dawson work. Dawson has shown some cardio problems, so if Ricky Glenn could make Dawson work for his takedowns, and I could see him make a comeback in the third round. But the most likely scenario is that Grant Dawson is going to win decision. So let's move on to the main event, Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori. Now this one is going to take place at 205 pounds now, which yeah, that Paulo Costa couldn't make weight, which is a bit interesting. He said he would let us know after the fight the reason for this. This is going to be a really fun fight. Marvin Vettori has really good durability, and Paulo Costa hits extremely hard. And his striking, his boxing I think it's actually pretty underrated. He has really good body shots, and he puts some really good combinations together. And Marvin Vettori also has a decent boxing, and the takedowns here is what's going to really make this interesting. If Marvin Vettori is able to take Paulo Costa down, he's probably going to win this. And the way we see this one is we see either Paulo Costa getting a finish in the first 2 or 3 rounds, or Marvin Vettori probably getting a finish in the 4th or 5th round. Most likely, well, it wouldn't be too surprising if Marvin Vettori would be able to perhaps get the takedown later in the fight, and if he can do so, he may be able to finish Paulo Costa off on the ground with a submitting him or by ground and pound. If he goes to the 4th or 5th round, Paulo Costa could have some big cardio problems, even though it's at 205. So this fight is actually pretty hard to predict, but we are going with Marvin Vettori in this one. He's a slight favorite. So after the announcement that the fight will be at 205, he's even a bigger favorite now. So yeah, we think that Marvin Vettori is going to survive the early onslaught that Paulo Costa is going to come with, and he's never been finished before. Marvin, he has a really good chin, and he hits leg kicks, but he keeps coming forward, and the takedowns will probably be there for him in the end of the fight also. So if he can survive early, he's probably going to start winning rounds later on, the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th round, and he may also get takedowns, and he could even finish Paulo Costa off. So yeah, that's it for this weekend's UFC card. And for our parlay, we actually have like I said here, we have Seung Choi, and we don't have any more fighters we are betting on this UFC card, but we have the PFL card. We have a parlay with Seung Choi and Antonio Carlos Jr. Those two to win. Now the PFL card is on Wednesday, so it's not it's just a week. No, well, actually it's well, like 5 days or something like that. So we have Antonio Carlos Jr. And Seung Choi to win. And yeah, Antonio Carlos Jr. is fighting Martin Hamlet, who is like a wrestler with not that good cardio, and his striking is he's dangerous like in the first round. He's heavy hands, but Antonio Carlos Jr. has really good chin, and he's now got a pretty good jab, really decent jab, and his striking has improved a lot. He has got leg kicks, and he's a BJJ champion. He's a black belt. His ground game is really good, so Martin may not even want to take this to the ground, even that's the only thing he's really good at. So for Martin, it's a really difficult matchup. Antonio should be the better fighter wherever this fight goes, although he may, well, if Martin gets a takedown, he would probably, well, he would be in really big danger even if he gets Antonio down, because he could get some submission off his back. And he has also improved his takedown defense, so and he won in his last time. Last fight out here, he won against Emiliano Sordi, who is even better fighter than Martin is. So yeah, we have Antonio Carlos and Seung Choi in our parlay here. So please subscribe, like, and comment who you got. Do you like our picks for this weekend? And please subscribe, and we'll see you next weekend. We will probably get our preview for next weekend's card out a lot sooner. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you, guys.